I'd like to tell you about Family Transitions Program because it's a really exciting program. It was designed for parents who are separating or living apart and having a hard time with that. So it really is designed to help people where they're having problems with their own feelings. They're having problems adjusting to the new family arrangement. And most importantly, they're having difficulties developing a really good co-parenting relationship with the other parent. So it's a program that's designed to help them. So it's a 5-session program, and it really touches on such important things. The first session talks about how divorce affects us, how divorce affects kids, and what it's like for adults too. Because for everybody, divorce is a tough thing. It's a hard thing to go through. Everybody hurts, but we hurt on different schedules and we show our hurt in different ways. The good news, of course, is that we can get through this transition, and that's what the program is designed to do. There's 2 sessions that focus on the adult's feelings, dealing with our feelings. And those feelings can be a whole range of things. For some people, it can be relief, joy, freedom. For others, it can be disappointment and hurt and sadness and loss, worry, guilt, anger. It can be the whole range of emotions, and it can even flip from one emotion to another really, really quickly. So it hits us even if we're people who've been fairly comfortable in our own skin up till then. So for some people, it may be the very first time to have such strong feelings. So we take 2 sessions to talk about these strong feelings and then to give parents really practical tools for how they can handle the feelings, things that they can do that help them cope, things that they can do to feel calmer, things that they can do to feel happier, things that they can do to feel less angry. So we devote 2 sessions to that, things we can do, and also that conversation that goes on in our head, the things that we say to ourselves. Because sometimes we're our toughest critics. We don't give ourselves a break. We're hard on ourselves. And sometimes we even take over the voices of people who've been kind of mean to us in the past. So in those sessions, we kind of think about what's a helpful way to think and what's an unhelpful way to think. And we practice different ways of thinking. So we've talked about the kids, we've talked about how to tell kids about separation, divorce. We have 2 sessions on parents' feelings, and then we have a really important one on communicating with the child's other parent. And I like to think of it as the child's other parent. For you, they probably feel like my ex, the person who let me down, the person who dumped me, the person who didn't do what I hoped was going to happen. But they're also your kid's other parent. So for your child, they're really, really important. And in that session, we're looking at how we can connect as 2 people who care deeply about the child and how we can communicate. So we practice some ways that we can talk when one of us is screwed up. How can we have conversations when we've brought the child late and the person is angry, or when we've done something we promised we would consult about, but we did it anyway without consulting? So we practice how we can have those conversations without them spinning out of control. Really, we know that separation is hard for kids, but the thing that's really toxic for kids is conflict. And kids shouldn't have to deal with conflict. That's our job as the adults in the family to handle that conflict. So in this really important session, we practice exactly how you talk when you're angry about things. And then the 5th session is really about how we move on and how we build a new life and a new parenting arrangement and perhaps new relationships in our lives. The great news is that parents do get through this, and our kids take their lead from us. When we get over it, it's so much easier for kids to get over it. So there's 5 sessions. And after those 5 sessions, sometimes parents decide that they're ready to do another course on different parenting strategies. They can't do it when they're at each other's throats. They can't do it when they're not trusting each other. And when you're not trusting each other, if I make a suggestion, you'll feel like I'm putting you down. Or if you make a suggestion, I'll feel like you're interfering. Whereas after this program, most parents feel better able to come together, not to put their relationship back together, but to be really good co-parents to support their children. Separation hurts, and it hurts both people, but at different schedules. Usually, people in a relationship, there's one person who's more unhappy than the other. And that one person has usually had lots of attempts to talk about things, or we need to do things differently, something has to change. And often there's another partner who thinks things are okay and they don't really understand. It feels to them like their partner is making a fuss, making a big deal. So the person who makes the decision to move on, to separate, hurts for a long time while they're making that decision. And they worry about making that decision. And the person who didn't choose it doesn't really start to hurt until the decision is announced. And they can feel blindsided by it. They can feel completely, I never saw this coming. I didn't see the writing on the wall. I didn't know. And they'll often feel like, I'll do anything. But for the other person, it's often too late. So you've got two people hurting, but at different schedules. Then you have to deal with the kids. So if you were a couple and you broke up, you'd hurt, you'd talk to the people you care about, you'd cry, you'd probably do some silly things for a little while. Usually when we separate, we're more likely to fall on the ice, we're more likely to lose our car keys, we're more likely to drop our phone on a floor. We even get the flu more often and colds. Our immune system is affected. So no adult is at their best when they're separating. And yet our kids at that point really need us. Divorce can affect parents because they're asked to come together and work as a team at a time when they're really feeling hurt and bruised and resentful of the other person. So we're asking them to be partners in parenting at a time when they'd probably really rather not see the person at all. So they have to make a new relationship, and that's really hard. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of patience. I'd have to say it takes some humility. Very often we have righteous indignation. We can't believe what they did. And we tell our friends and we're shocked. And that just tends to put fuel on the fire. And that smoke from that fire is really toxic to kids. So the hard thing in co-parenting is to remember what our kids need. And what our kids need is different than what we need as adults. Parents find different tools helpful at different times. So right at the beginning, after the first session, they get some really practical ideas about how to talk to their kids about separating and divorcing. That's something that parents get really worried about. What do we say to our kids? And in that very first session, we give them some very practical ideas so that they can have that first conversation. And of course, it's the first conversation of lots of conversations. It's not something that happens just once. We tell our kids, and then it comes up again, usually at the most inconvenient times, but we've kind of practiced how we're going to handle that. Some parents really find the next 2 sessions on coping with emotions. They get ideas. So for somebody, it might be as simple as learning how to breathe and slow down and relax. For somebody else, it might be they kind of learn to be in the moment. And that's something that we had early on. And it's something which really keeps us going when we can be in the moment. If we think back to when we fall in love with somebody and you think of food that you share and somehow peanut butter tastes better than it tasted before and a cup of coffee smells better than it did. And when we're separating and divorcing, coffee is what you spill on your lap when you didn't notice something and you were in a rush. And peanut butter is what you smear on your coat as you're rushing to do something. So for some people, that tool of learning to seize those moments that are restoring for them. It could be gazing into a fire. It could be noticing a sunrise. So for some people, getting those moments back, claiming those moments in their life can be really practical and helpful. The one I hope everybody takes away is learning how to stop arguments from escalating. Every argument is like a dance. It follows a predictable pattern. So I say something mean to you, you say something mean back to me. My voice gets a bit louder. I tell you about the time 2 years ago where you did this thing that really upset me, and suddenly it's kind of World War III. And parents find it really helpful to learn ways that they can just stop that. They can just do a circuit break on that, just a pause on that, so that they don't feed in a toxic kind of way. I think in the 5th session, what people can take away is some really practical ideas about moving on with your life. When I'm going to start dating again, and what do I do with the kids when I start dating, and all of those kind of things. How do we make a plan for sharing parenting, and how do we change that plan as our kids get older and as their preferences change and as our life circumstances change. So different parents get different things from the program. And some of them will go back and look at the workbook in the program and pick something up, perhaps months after the program ended, that they now feel ready to take a look at. In this program, we never see the kids. And in the past, there used to be lots of programs where that really tried to help kids to deal with things. And they didn't go very far because really it's not the kid's job. It's the parent's job. It's our adult responsibility. We can't outsource that. It's our adult job to take care of our own feelings, to talk in a respectful way to the other parent, and to rebuild our lives. And when we take that responsibility on as adults, it comes off the kids' shoulders. When they know where they stand, when they know what the routines are at home, when they know a parent is okay, that takes a huge responsibility away from kids. After parents separate, as you've talked about, kids will show how difficult it is in different ways. Some kids might act younger than their age, so the little one who is proud to be toilet trained and no more diapers might start peeing the bed again. Kids who've been happily going off to daycare might have a hard time going to daycare. Your teenager may be mouthy in a way you never had before, or they might behave super well because it's like they're walking on eggshells and they don't want to set their parents off. So when parents take responsibility for their own emotions, then kids can get back to being kids. Kids need the same thing, whether their parents are together or whether their parents are apart. They need a loving relationship where the parent gives them space for them to love the other parent. And that's a really, really healing one for children. We put the responsibility all on the parents. The parents have to do the work, but the changes we see in parents, and the research shows this too, is that they feel less bitter towards the other parent. They're in a better place to be a strong co parent. So they may feel like, well, it always drove me crazy that my partner was so organized and rigid about things. And then they get to see, well, it's actually good for some things for my kid to have structure. And another parent might say, oh my God, my ex was so unpredictable. And they may begin to see that for the kids, that parent is the one who can help them be spontaneous and be fun, and they can get something from that relationship. So we see a shift in the way that parents view the co-parent. They see them as a co-parent. I might not want to live with you anymore. I might be really disappointed in the ways you let me down. I'm crushed that our dreams didn't turn out, but I'm so happy that you and our child were able to go and have this fun together, or that you enjoyed this activity, or my child is so proud to tell you about something that they did. So we see a real shift in that. And as parents do make all of these changes, people feel less angry. The stress comes down because separating and making this new co-parenting relationship is so stressful. But when the stress comes down, we can kind of enjoy our life more. We can take a breath. We can think of something from the other person's perspective, and and then be more ready to move on with our lives. So those are the big changes. So when lots of parents think about taking the program, they have this long laundry list of the way their life would be better if their ex would do this long list of things. My life would be so much easier if they would stop doing this and start doing that. And of course, the sad fact is we often haven't been able to get them to make any changes when we thought we loved each other. It's probably going to be really hard to get the other person to change now. So, one of the things that parents really learn in the program, or are reminded of in the program, is that they're only responsible for their own behavior. And an argument is a bit like a dance, and it follows a very predictable sequence. But a dance requires two people. So if I learn ways to stop an argument, it's really hard for the other person to still be angry. One of the things we practice in the program is having these conversations where we don't let it get out of control. And people are often really surprised to find how hard it is to stay angry when the other person is reasonable, when the other person doesn't put fuel on that fire, when the other person says, seems like this is not the best time to talk. Let's do this another time because we really need to find a solution to help our kids. So people coming to this program will often go through a shift. At the beginning, they tell you all the ways they would like the other person to change. And when they complete the program, they think about all the ways that they've changed. And interestingly, some of those changes actually do lead to changes in their co parent. When we run family transitions, we usually have one parent from a family in a group. And if the other parent wanted to follow the program, they would do it in a separate group because it's kind of hard to have two ex partners and now co-parents in the same group. A question people ask a lot is, do I have to convince my ex to do this for it to work? And it would be great if both people were in different groups, but we've seen success when just one parent comes. The other parent can no longer hold you hostage. In this program, you learn the things that you can do that make a difference to how your relationship with your children, how you feel, and how you're willing to talk to your co-parent. So they may continue to be foul-mouthed, but we learn ways to stop those conversations, to not take part in them. So many parents find it really empowering to take part in the program, even if the other parent doesn't wish to.